Welcome to the Southern Voice. I'm Jarrell Fullerton. Today on our show, we're going to be talking about human trafficking. I'm here with Ms. Pam Strickland. She's the CEO and founder of Eastern North Carolina's Stop Human Trafficking Now. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. You're watching the Southern Voice. Welcome back. You're watching The Southern Voice. We're here with Ms. Pam Strickland. She's the CEO and founder of Eastern North Carolina's Stop Human Trafficking Now. How you doing, Ms. Strickland?
I'm fine, thank you.
Well, let's delve right into it. Explain to us a little bit about what human trafficking is.
Sure. Human trafficking is modern-day slavery, and it looks different depending on what country you're in and what industry you're talking about. So we'll talk mostly about here in the U.S. Here in the U.S., we typically have either sex trafficking or labor trafficking. And if we're talking about sex trafficking, it can be either foreign women who have been manipulated or coerced into the U.S., usually with the promise of a legitimate job. But then when they get here, they're actually forced into prostitution or some related field. Sex trafficking, though, can also happen to American citizens. And there's the term for that is domestic minor sex trafficking. So we have a huge problem with American girls who are being manipulated or coerced into prostitution by people claiming to be their boyfriends initially, who actually turn out to be pimps. So that's sort of a general definition of sex trafficking in the U.S. As far as labor trafficking, probably the most common form of labor trafficking in the U.S. would be in the agricultural industry. We have a lot of immigrants coming in to fill these low-paying jobs in the agricultural industry. It's a situation that's ripe for exploitation. However, we do have labor trafficking in other fields aside from agriculture. It can be in construction. It can be in restaurants, nail salons. So any field where there's a need for a lot of low-skilled labor.
Could you tell us about Eastern North Carolina's Stop Human Trafficking and how you all came to be?
We are a fairly young nonprofit. We incorporated in 2010. And basically, I got interested in human trafficking at a conference that I attended with my church. And I heard a speaker talk about sex trafficking, and it was in a foreign country. And he actually had footage of a rescue his group had done in a brothel in Asia. And it had all these tiny little girls in it. I mean, like 5- and 6-year-old little girls in this brothel. And I was just stunned. I couldn't believe that in this day and age, there are people who are selling their little girls into brothels, and that there are people going to pay to have sex with these little girls. I was stunned. And so I came back from that experience and just did research and learned more about it and found out it's not something that only happens in Asia. It happens everywhere, including the United States. So I felt called to do something about it, to educate the community, and found out there were other people in the community that were also interested in that. And so we came together to form a nonprofit.
What types of programs do you offer?
Well, we don't actually do direct victim services, and thank goodness there are several groups here in North Carolina who do offer that, who offer counseling to victims, who offer shelter to victims. So that is not something that we do. One thing that we are very interested in, however, is prevention. That's a part of our education piece. So we like to go out and talk to middle school and high school students. We like to talk to the girls about, their own personal worth, because how these the pimps and traffickers are able to manipulate these girls typically is they think this is all they deserve. That's one way they go at it. So we actually educate them on here are the methods that pimps use to manipulate you and to recruit you, to groom you. So that's one thing we like to do is talk to middle school and high school girls and their parents, of course. And we, of course, need to talk to the boys, too. When we're looking at prevention efforts, the nationwide and internationally, too, the emphasis right now is on demand. Okay, the idea is that, we wouldn't have pimps manipulating and recruiting 15-year-old girls into prostitution if you didn't have grown men who were willing to pay to have sex with 15-year-old girls, right? So the issue is not the pimps and the supply. The issue is the demand. And so we want to really to peel back those layers and understand why do we have such a huge demand and how can we address that issue. So one of the things that we try to do is talk to boys and men about attitudes towards women in general, about pornography use, about the idea of purchasing sex at all, and particularly from minors, to start a discussion to help them understand that this is violence against women when you're paying to have sex with someone who has been manipulated into that trade. So prevention is a big thing for us.
Could you tell us about your 5K that takes place in October?
Yes, we are very excited about that. This is our 5th annual 5K. It actually started out being a walk, but we had so many people say, well, why don't you make it a run? Why can't we have a 5K? So we decided to do that, and that's been a good change for us. It is on October 12th. It is at the Greenville Town Common, and we are encouraging people to form teams, to get their youth group together, or to get their office together, their family, their civic group, whatever, to come out as a team. If you have a group of at least 10, then you'll get a discounted rate from your registration fee. And the team leader gets a little thank you gift, of course. One thing we like to tell people, too, is that this is an awareness building 5K. We want to get the word out about what human trafficking is. But of course, it is a fundraiser for our organization. And so everyone who raises at least the $100 will also receive a thank you gift from us. And those who register early will get a Fair Trade t-shirt. And, I mentioned earlier that fair trade is important to us, so we really try to walk our talk. We don't give away the typical little cheap $2 t-shirts that are made in a sweatshop that you'll see at a lot of events. Ours is fair trade. The people are paid a fair living wage that made our t-shirts. So that's important to us. To receive one of those t-shirts, you need to register by September 13th.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back to talk more with Ms. Pam Strickland about human trafficking. Stay tuned. You're watching The Southern Voice.
You're watching The Southern Voice. Yarr!
And we're back with Ms. Pam Strickland. Ms. Strickland, let's continue our conversation about 5K. How will the funds from this event be used to stop human trafficking?
That's a great question because people like to know how their money is going to be spent if they're willing to donate it to a nonprofit. So here with our organization, what we like to do is talk to people, as I mentioned, about human trafficking. So the funds go to boring things like travel expenses so that we can travel across the state. One thing that we are really interested in doing is more of our prevention work, and we would actually like to hire a staff person. Currently, we are all volunteer. I don't receive a salary. None of us do. We're all volunteers. But I'd like to have someone who very actively goes into the schools and talks about human trafficking. There are several curricula out there that are specifically written to be in school systems, and they tend to be either a 6 or an 8 week curriculum where a person would go in once a week for about an hour for 6 or 8 weeks. And we would love to have a staff person who could do that kind of thing. What we've been able to do so far is, we speak
kind of a one-time shot at after-school programs or in school groups, as we're able, like youth groups, that kind of thing. And that has been helpful, and we'll certainly continue to do that. But we would like to do a more sustained effort that we think might actually impact the students more. So we think that having a staff person would help us do that.
How can people register for this event?
We try to make it easy. The easiest way, of course, is online. So our website is www.encstophumantrafficking.org. And if you go there, you will see on our homepage information about the 5K and how to register for it. You can also, for people who don't like to do things online, you can, from that site, just print off an entry form and send that in to me with a check for your registration. So either way works fine.
How can people become involved in your organization, and how can we contact you?
Well, we love volunteers. As I said, we are completely volunteer driven. So people can contact us either by phone or through email or directly through the website, which again is www.encstophumantrafficking.org. The phone number and email are both on there. And the way that people can be involved is we do a lot of community events. For instance, this past summer we were at the Umbrella Market in downtown Greenville. Every Wednesday night, we do things like Pirate Fest and other festivals. We get invited to conferences and church fairs and festivals and that kind of thing. And we think those are really good opportunities for us to get the word out about human trafficking and about fair trade. But it takes a lot of volunteers to be at all these different events. So that's one way. And that's a fun way. Volunteers like to do that because they're getting to talk with people and they're encountering the public and generally in a kind of a fun atmosphere. If we have people who are comfortable being public speakers, that's another huge need for us to go out and speak to church groups, youth groups, civic groups, that kind of thing. And of course, we always need boring stuff like help in the office for people that are willing to do that for us too.
Well, Ms. Strickland, thank you for speaking with us today. I think all the information gathered today was very informative. I think our viewers can benefit from knowing a little bit more about what's going on in our world with human trafficking. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're watching The Southern Voice.
For more information, contact Student Health Services.
We'd like to thank you for tuning in to The Southern Voice today. If you'd like to be on our show, you can contact us at thesouthernvoice@yahoo.com. Before we leave, we're going to take a few glances at what Fair Trade has to offer and the products they have available. Thank you and God bless.